This is Primitive Outfitting, and you are listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Chicken, wow, wow.
Wow.
Nice.
And I'm not standing on my high horse saying I shoot a self bow, because there's no way in hell I'm shooting a self bow. When I say that, I mean that in a good Christian way.
As far as Cecil goes with me, I mean, I could really give a crap about that lion too much.
And all I was looking at was the tip of Aron's arrow. And it was like this and this, and then it was kind of shaking, and then it went boom, solid like a rock. And I'm like, oh.
He's like, I got to know if you hit anything or not. You never really show excitement, because I don't. I'm kind of always mellow. And this thing, ready to jerk a tear. I was running around like an idiot. Woo! You know, if you ever talk to anybody from Africa, they're all about hunting lions because they eat people. Yeah. The compound, I have total confidence. With this thing, I'm like, yeah, maybe. But the way that America works, we're so soft, like softer than baby. All of us, basically.
The shooting errors, I'm going to call it Matrix effect. I panicked.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast. We're at Aron's house in Golden, Colorado. Golden. We have a podcast coming your way today on Broadheads.
Yes, Broadheads. This is to slow down my PM, message, Instagram, Facebook, email, and text box.
Yes, and you may need to move that mic in closer.
I'll say that again. This is to slow down my email, PM, Instagram, Facebook, Google Tweet Face inbox with questions. Try to knock out some stuff on the Broadheads ahead of time.
Yep. So Aron has been shooting all of these, and we won't say where or how. But
I never shoot Broadheads at Bear Creek Archery Range because it's illegal.
Right.
Ever.
You need to be, and you need a broadhead target. But you've been flying them long distance.
Yep.
As well as just testing them in general. So take it away, man. Tell us about these.
Yeah, well, yesterday I didn't even shoot that. I shot so good I didn't shoot much because I kept putting them in the middle. But what I wanted to go over is the broadheads that I've been shooting. You can kind of chime in what you think you're going to shoot. What I think the acceptable parameters for each head might be, meaning I get a lot of questions. My air weight is this much. I'm shooting this much speed. Is this broadhead okay? Mm-hmm. And then talk about why I like these specific heads. And I'll probably chime in with some other heads as well. So the three that are in front of me right here, this is an NAP kill zone. This is a forward deploying head. This has got the chisel tip. I'll go into more about that in a minute when I say forward deploying, as it hits these fling forward, the broadheads or the blades.
It's like a rage.
Kind of, yeah. Yep, exactly.
You know, they deploy downward.
Yeah.
And instead of folding outward.
Yep. This is now I shoot two of these. This is a grave digger. This is the cut-on contact head. The other head's basically the same, but it has a chisel tip. And I have them. I was just too lazy to open up the package. You won't be able to see them here, but this is the chisel tip. It's still got the cutting diameter. It's just the front of it has a chisel head instead of a cut-on contact head. These are rear deploying as the broadhead enters the animal. They open backwards, I guess you could say.
Fold out, yeah.
You can adjust the tension on these heads with this Allen right here. It's a 7/8 cutting diameter fixed blade as well. And then this is one I've recently been screwing with. I haven't killed anything with this one yet. And this is the Iron Will broadhead. This little guy is pretty unique, and I'll go into great depth with this one because this one I've been testing more than anything because of its uniqueness. So the first one I'll go over, though, as far as parameters, the NAP kill zone is a devastating broadhead that sucks up momentum like it's its job. So if you are shooting a relatively lightweight arrow, relatively low speed, not a lot of momentum, this probably isn't the broadhead for you. Specifically, I've gotten some phone calls from guys saying, hey, I shot a kill zone last year, shot at a buck at 82 yards, didn't get that much penetration. that doesn't surprise me because this thing literally sucks up momentum like crazy because it takes quite a bit to get those. Any forward deploying blade's going to suck up some momentum. The pressure it takes to open these. I mean, having said that, I shot that one bull in the chest at a great distance and it buried to the knock. But I was shooting a 580 grain arrow at like 288.
Right.
So plenty.
So with a heavy arrow and a powerful bow setup, it's a great broadhead.
Yep. I just don't think people with lighter weight arrow, lower speed, or lightweight arrow fast, it's just not gonna get the penetration you want. And you could end up with a pretty piss poor outcome if you're shooting, just a crushing setup with the weight and speed. I think this is a great option. Downsides to it, like any mechanical, these blades suck. They break after practicing with them for a while. When I say they suck, that might be a little harsh. A mechanical is not going to be as durable as a good fixed blade. I think they're durable enough. I've killed several animals with this kill zone. But we break blades and targets if we shoot them long enough. It's just it's how a mechanical is. There's a lot of hatred towards mechanicals. There's pros and cons to both. And I've said it and I'll continue to say it. I would rather a guy, if he's going to go hunting and, take a knife to a gunfight, I would rather a guy screw on a mechanical in hopes that he might hit closer to where he's aiming at than screw on a fixed blade and hit 3 feet from where he's aiming at. Not to say either one is right, but man, I'm seeing it every day down at Bear Creek, right? It's that time of year. Guys they're not tuning their bows. They're just pulling they're not really equipped to go in the field, but they're going to go anyway. The next one,
on that blade there, hang on, what was I going to say?
You shot your deer with it. Is
I
it about
did.
that?
Oh, on that note, I think that correct me if I'm wrong, but there's pretty much, that flies like a field tip.
It does. Now, I will say this thing wobbles. Some of them do. You got to make sure that they're because this is so long, sometimes you'll get a little bit of a wobble. And when I get a wobble, I'll get it on a piece of wood and flex it to get it to spin straight. For the most part, though, especially inside of 60 yards, they hit real good. You get past it, 60 in that 80, 100 yard range, you definitely have to focus a little bit more. One thing I do want to touch on, and I'll try to speed through this. I'm learning that, I'm going to sound like a total asshole here, but I don't mind. The art of archery and tech is kind of going down the crapper, and people aren't really learning maybe what they should learn. And it happens. It may not be, you may not have anyone around you that knows whatever, but definitely seek out info on how to tune your bow, how to tune your broadheads, things like that. I hear a lot of guys tell me my broadheads suck. They don't hit well. And I'll say, did you tune your bow? No. Okay, that's a problem, right? I mean, that's just a problem. You need to tune your bow. You need to make sure your arrows are flying correctly out of your bow. But then I'll have guys say they shoot bullet holes for the most part, and their broadheads aren't hitting. If you cut the end of this arrow like crap, or the end of this arrow like crap, one of many problems.
The back end or the front end of an arrow shaft, if you cut it poorly.
Yep. When you glue that insert in, the chances of that broadhead spinning true are not great, which means it'd be like the broadhead being crooked anyway, which is going to cause piss poor arrow flight. So you want to make sure your arrow is square. If you go to a pro shop and you see the guy holding the middle of your arrow, cutting your arrow when he's going through the saw, you need to go up and you smack the shit out of that guy, because he is definitely not helping you out. Because as he's bringing it through the saw, this arrow's flexing, and it's going to be an inaccurate edge or cut on the end of your arrow. You want to make sure and hold it up a lot closer to the blade. If you're not spinning each broadhead, spinning each arrow, you're not doing your due diligence, no broadhead is going to be perfect. There's no way around it. I will stop my bitch session.
And there's other podcasts. If you go to grittybowmen.com and you go to the Gritty Index menu, you'll find our index feature, and you can type in arrow build, and a number of podcasts will come up on that, and you can type in bow tuning, and some podcasts on bow tuning will pop up there as well. And it's a really, that feature, that search function is pretty solid. I mean, it's working pretty good. So I think that'll narrow it down out of like nearly, we're pushing 300 episodes, and there's maybe 5 on that. So you don't have to dig and search to find the podcast on the topics you want. You can just type it in.
Yeah, and it's not like I have much remorse in life, but you are going out to kill an animal. You should probably put some effort into learning how to do it as best you can. You wouldn't go drive a car to the store without learning how to drive first, so you don't want to just screw a broadhead on and start winging arrows.
And there are people, I mean, I've been in their shoes where I've been frustrated. I feel like I've done everything I can do. I've read everything I thought there was to read. How come this isn't working? Mm-hmm. And I talk about that experience where I learned about dynamic spine on an arrow, which I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And literally I had a fixed blade broadhead and all my arrows flew great with field tips. I shot bullet holes into paper. And then when I went and put the fixed blade on, I'd have one, like my number 1 arrow, 2 arrow, 3 arrow, 4 arrow, 5 arrow. What I started to notice was the number 1 arrow would hit in the top right corner, and the number 2 arrow would hit kind of middle, and number 3 would hit the bottom right, and they would consistently fly to the same spot.
Yeah.
Each individual arrow. Now, when I first did it, I just saw that I was completely, nothing was tuned right, right? Then I realized after I did that, I went and saw Corey Miller, and he's like, well, the dynamic spine in each shaft is a little different. Did you knock tune these arrows? I'm like, what the hell is that? What is knock tuning? Yeah. And then with a few twists on the knock, he had my arrows flying to center, like 6 out of 9 arrows, hitting the same spot.
Happened the other night. He had 1 arrow shooting out the top. And the better you get as a shot, the more you can tell the differences. And I said, well, just rotate it. And he, when I say rotate, your knock snaps to the string. You just rotate it over each one time each, or however. I've got 4 flicks,
knock
so
on your arrow, options. Twist it.
Just twist it to where it's indexed over one setting, and it'll usually suck it into the group.
Yeah.
And again, as I'm poking fun and making jokes, I've been there too. I mean, everybody's been there. I remember the first time I shot a Rocky Mountain Premier at a broadhead target, I missed it by 3 feet. And I did like everyone else does. I went and bought some broadheads, sighted my bow in, screwed the broadheads on, went and shot, and I'm like, how am I going to kill an animal? I missed that target at 20 yards. And I mean, that thing it looked like one of those tomahawks where it like comes out and it does that big corkscrew thing.
Yeah.
And then it's shot in the dirt. And I was broke as a joke at the time. So then I'm afraid to shoot another one because I can only afford 3 or 4.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, if obviously we're trying to help everyone from these podcasts. And I don't mind people messaging me, and you don't either. But definitely, if you've got a pro shop, utilize that pro shop, meaning buy your gear there. But once you've bought your gear there, also you ask them questions. They'll help you tune the bow. What's his name? What is it? Knocked Up? What the hell's his name?
Knock On.
John
Dudley.
He's got some informational stuff. Corey Miller's got some informational stuff. What?
Wayne's over there.
John Dudley's Knocked Up. Is what I was, no. Anyway, whatever it is. And then, Phil Mendoza, Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear in this area. Find a pro shop that is competent on how to tune your bow. And then make sure you do fling a couple broadheads downrange to make sure you can actually hit shit with it.
Well, and it's a different story when you're flinging a fix to a mechanical. And that's the whole thing. I mean, a lot of guys get away with not having everything dialed because a mechanical can fly pretty close to a field tip.
I said it before. That's why God invented mechanicals for people that don't know how to tune a bow. And I was in that same boat.
Right.
Rocky Mountains. This is when I was hunting with Mark Smith. What was that thing called? The Steelhead? Who made those things? Primos or whatever bought them out at one point.
A Broadhead.
The Broadhead. They had like steelheads and wolverines. The guy was out of Minnesota, I think. Horrible broadhead, shitty. Blades broke all the time. Mark liked them. But little rubber band, right, to hold it on, like the kind of rubber band that you would have.
This is a mechanical?
Oh, yeah. I remember shooting, I had a Matthew Safari, or maybe it was a Bowtech. I had something that was like 100 pounds. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out why the hell I wasn't hitting the target. It was opening up, coming out of the bow. So I had to put 2 or 3 rubber bands on. I mean, again, I'm old.
That
so,
is Jimmy jury rigging that thing.
I starting when because I was in archery when mechanicals first started. I mean, you talk about it, and you'd get guys like Mark, where Mark would just straight up, I kill everything with these. They're awesome. And then you'd get someone else that may not have been quite the archer Mark was.
Right.
Well, he may not have had the same results as, and then you get guys, I hit it dead in the lungs, broadhead didn't open. All right.
Too many rubber bands.
Should have died, probably.
Too many rubber bands.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, and so there's a lot of pros and cons to fixed blades and mechanicals, and it's funny thinking back the history of it. But anyway, with with a forward deploying rubber band, whatever the hell you're using, there's certainly a specific type of broadhead that's going to suit your specific hunting setup. But if you don't tune your bow, you're only handicapping yourself.
I've used those big Rage aluminum broadheads that have like a 2.3 inch or something cutting diameter. They're like super fragile.
It's like throwing an axe through an animal. Rage in the cage, baby.
And I've used those on a few animals, and they've been absolutely devastating. They're the forward deploying as well, but they're a lot like flimsier. And but they worked well. But I've always used those on smaller game, and tried to be careful about that. But I wouldn't want to use those on a bigger animal.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys probably do, but when it comes to elk, I'm a lot more picky about my broadhead than when it comes to like whitetail deer.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, it's like religion and politics, man. People get epically pissed off when you start talking about broadheads,
and I just picked some that flew well, and I used them for like 5 or 6 years, and that was the 4-blade slick trick.
Yeah. Well, and I think maybe actually when we're done list some solid like broadhead, good broadheads, because there's some shitty ones out there. Mm-hmm. There's some really bad ones, but this is the Grave Digger. This is the cut on contact head. It's basically a 7/8 cutting diameter fixed blade, and then you've got 1 3/4 mechanical. These are devastating. These blades do break. I haven't had one break on an animal yet, but just shooting into the target will shear them off. You know, it's a little blade; it's not going to hold up that well. These are devastating. They do take a little bit to open them. You can adjust the tension. You want to make sure, and if the tension's too loose, they open up coming out of the bow, which is really bad for arrow flight. If it's too tight, it just won't open at all. And they have the cut on contact and a chisel tip head. These things fly great. I haven't had any issue with them. They're good for a mechanical. These are good.
The first time I used them was on our Alabama whitetail hunt, and I screwed those suckers on down at the range, and and we shot them, and they flew just like my field tips, pretty much right out of the box. And then we went to Alabama, and I think you'd used them before, but and this is on a whitetail, and so I'm curious of what you think about it for other game, but they were absolutely devastating on the whitetail. And I had the chisel tip. That's what I used up there. And I know you used the cut on contact for bear.
Yeah.
In BC.
It crushed that poor bear.
And that's a big bear. Although bears, they kind of have a pretty soft, they don't have those bone structures like deer and elk do.
It went in behind the shoulder, and it spun right when I shot. And this was at a good poke of a shot. It came out its throat. It sounded like Gollum trying to do the death moan, dude. Because it was, I'm like, I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
What the hell? Because I've heard lots of death moans.
Right.
But it left, Lander sees 30 to 50 animals die a year. Mm-hmm. There was literally, it looked like a murder scene. It was insane. And
like
Lander
threw a tomahawk through it.
Dude, he hates mechanicals.
Right.
Lander's not a fan.
I know, and yet we've used them, and he's like, can't argue their effect.
Well, he's standing in the middle of that field, and he's like, so it was here, and it went there, and it was like 12 yards or something, and a pool of blood. But having said that, there's no doubt a fixed blade broadhead is going to be your best option if you can get them to tune and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
They do drift more in the wind. I mean, there's negative sides too. So, which actually brings me up to my next one that I've been screwing around with this. This is the Iron Will head. It's a 125. This is by far, and this isn't a sales pitch, it's the most accurate fixed blade I've ever shot. It's more accurate than a Wacom. I mean, 120 yards. It was unbelievable. There's a couple downsides. One being you'll have to sell your testicle, potentially your kidney, to afford a dozen. I think they're $40 each. $32 each. Yeah, see that face you made? That's what everybody does. The guy, I think his slogan is as accurate as science allows. And having spoken with the guy, well, I'm going to poke fun of him for because he's OCD, and I'm like whatever the opposite of OCD is. That's me on most stuff. So I'm putting.
Let me see that thing. I want to hold a $40 broadhead. So
I put it in the box,
like.
Right, and Amy, I love her to death. She's kind of the same way. So see this antler goes one way, which is supposed to be, I guess, this way. But I put the wrapper on upside down, like this, and I put it in the box that way. And that dude's OCD so bad, he had to pull it out of the box and flip this bad boy around and let me know I had it backwards. And I'm thinking, dude, if I get my boots on the right foot, it's a victory in the morning, right? Like that's the last thing I'm worried about. But that is the kind of meticulous effort he put into that head. And it's very sharp.
So what do you think in terms of, and what do you know about the killing power of
lethality? Is that a word?
Yeah, lethality.
Not a whole lot. They've killed some animals with them. They've obviously done very well.
Not a whole lot in terms of you don't really have enough info.
I haven't shot shit with them. I haven't shot anything. So I'm going to use.
What's the word on the street?
Honestly, there isn't much of a word on the street because he just came out with them. Like Bill, because
that's not a huge. I mean, when you're looking at some of these mechanical blades and the holes they put in the animals, that's not a giant hole.
No, I mean it's good for a fixed blade, but not compared to a mechanical. It's going to be. I mean, I can't quantify it 4 to 6 times more durable than a mechanical. I mean, I whiffed a couple at 120, and I just shot them again. And
what are they made out of?
So there's titanium and stainless steel. You know what? The 100 grains got titanium in them, and I can't remember the type of steel he's using. He told me, you know what? Before I hack this all up, get on it. It's Iron Will Outfitters. Just read up on them. It's pretty amazing. It's got a lifetime warranty on it. I don't see in here, but it's ironwilloutfitters.com. They also, like any vented blade, they hiss going in the air. You can hear them going through the air. They're sharp all the way around. The backside's even sharp. They're extremely sharp. They're just about indestructible. This here, I'm trying to do a realistic, no BS, because I got these at cost, right? I did have to pay for them. Would I buy these heads and would I use them type of a season, right? Okay, so right now, he gave me a practice blade. We're going to pretend I didn't have that one. I've got one head that has turned into a 100% total practice blade because I missed with it so many times. I missed twice, and it pretty much I wasn't going to sharpen it. So, but then I missed it, and I can't find it. So there's no warranty for that one in the grass because I just don't know where it is. So that's kind of a downside. But I will say, if a guy is wanting the best broadhead, meaning
he's willing to pay,
and he's willing to pay, he's going on a once-in-a-lifetime hunt, especially for real big game animals, I can see the validity of having these.
It's similar to like Brent Hahn's set system, his broadheads at Valkyrie Archery. You're talking about, a Porsche.
What's better than a Porsche? Honey, what's the best car on the market? Huh? What'd she say? Tesla? Okay, this is a Tesla. This is definitely a Tesla.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. Is the car called a Tesla?
I don't know. I mean, we're into basically Tundra and Ram, so it's kind of hard to.
Isn't Tesla he was the one that during the light bulb thing, he was the one was AC current, one was DC. Tesla was DC and that's what I meant. Tesla. Look at with a big brain on Dwayne. And now there's a car. Anyway, so the Tesla here, I can see how people would find an attraction to this, that moose, whatever the case may be, sheep, something where they're going on a once-in-a-lifetime hunt, because the accuracy, there is no failure to this head. I mean, the thing's just amazing. But it is expensive. And like any vented blade, it's going to make some noise in the air. That was my only, really, with him, when I talked to him, I brought up, and the guy, again, he's anal. He's doing decibel tests, noise tests now, to see how much difference there is. Is it because I'm behind it? Are you hearing it in front of it, coming at you? That type of stuff.
Right.
He actually made one for me that says Gritty Bowmen on it, which is kind of cool of him.
Very cool.
But yeah, so those are the three that I'm going to use this year. Some of the other heads I've used, you brought one up that tons of people use, a Slick Trick. Whack-em is another one we've talked about, makes a great broadhead. I'm not a big fan of Rage personally, but it's kind of hypocritical because I shoot a kill zone. I think it was my experience with Rage when they first came out has kind of turned me off. My buddy's a bear guy. That's all he'll use.
I was going to say, that's what I shot that bear with you.
Yeah.
And that thing died in like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It was almost instantaneous.
Yep. No, for sure. I mean,
Exodus, not a big animal.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, man. I mean, it's big enough. It died. I remember it died right in front of us. I mean, it literally almost ran us
People
over.
haven't seen that video yet, but as soon as I shot, within 3 seconds, Aron was slapping me on the back because the bear was dead.
Oh yeah, no, and but yeah, Exodus. That's another one that's a good head. Ramcat is a good head.
I've heard good things about Ramcat.
I've killed some stuff with Ramcat. They make
So
a real good head.
One thing I like about the Ramcat and the Gravedigger is they're not the Ramcat exactly, but they're because the Ramcat's kind of a fixed blade.
Yeah, it's kind of
a hybrid
fixed blade. Yeah, it's kind of weird. In fact, when they first came out, it was like 2012, and there was debate on if they were legal, is it barbed. But I've seen probably 9. I'm not counting turkeys. 9 animals died from a Ramcat. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen. My buddy shot a bull, John Patterson. He's up in Wisconsin. I'll skip the long version of the story, even though it's funny. He hits it in the liver, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, after something like that, I'm like, dude, you're good. Liver's fatal. You're solid. And it runs off like 60 yards, and it beds up, and all of a sudden it's making this most horrific, and I have no heart with this. It doesn't bug me, and it goes and I was like, what the hell was that? And it does it a couple more times. At first I'm like, don't worry, man, it's just dying. Well, 3 or 4 more times I'm like, maybe we should go shoot it again. That's a horrible sound. But when I cut that open, there was no liver left. It just destroyed it. And that was on a Ramcat, it's a very good head.
That's what I'm wondering. You and I use the Gravediggers. I've used them quite a bit since then. They are what's kind of nice about those is they did fly quiet, really quiet. And if a blade didn't deploy, the fixed part or the mechanical part, you still have a cut that's as big as that iron will.
It's close. I think the iron will's 1 1/8, and then the 1 7/8. It's a little bigger. I'm going to screw around and cut my finger off here. It's a little bit different, but not much. This is
okay.
It's got to be 7/8 an inch and a 1/16 for the iron will. That's data I probably should have wrote
close
ahead of time.
But no, it's a little. But still, the point is, you have that insurance because it's flying a lot like a fixed, like a mechanical, but yet you still have that.
Yep. That
safety net. If it didn't, it's still lethal whether those blades deploy or don't.
Yep. Well,
and I kind of like that. Just to know that
just in case.
Just in case the mechanical didn't work. But if it does work, you're getting that huge benefit that the mechanical provides, which is that devastating blood.
Well, and I had a Grim Reaper not open on me with me, and Frank had a Grim Reaper not open as well. It happens. I mean, I don't bash mechanicals. I'm somewhat of an advocate for mechanicals, but it does happen. I mean, I've heard of multiple stories, but I can legit say I shot one. I pulled I shot one a cow, maybe a list B cow tag. Cow ran out in the middle. I'm like, why aren't you dying? And then I pulled out because I had both fixed and mechanical. I pulled out a fixed to whack him, hit it with a whack and went up there, and the entry and exit was like a field tip, didn't open.
I've been really impressed with the Grave Digger myself. So I think that's primarily what I'm using. My question to you is, what's your opinion on the chisel tip versus the cut on contact?
For what I've been telling people is, if you're at a lower poundage, you're hitting that, kind of, I don't say precipice, but hitting that border, you should shoot the cut on contact, because you're just flat out going to get more penetration. If your setup's good, that chisel tip's going to fly a little bit better. It's a little bit more streamlined than that cut on, the big cut on contact. But I think anybody shooting anything, if you're shooting a 450 to 500 grain arrow at 270 plus, you shoot pretty much whatever you want. But if you're shooting a lower poundage bow or not as much momentum, and you're going to shoot a mechanical, that cut on contact's pretty hard to beat. It's going to out penetrate that chisel tip no matter which way you look at it. So I'm going to shoot both. I mean, this is one of the only years, one of the only bows that I've been able to shoot. The other night, 5 broadheads at one target at one time at 80 yards, and all hit the same spot. It doesn't happen very often. Now I'm spinning I'm taking the time. I'm spinning the arrows. I'm making sure that, they're spinning true. The arrows that I'm shooting, I've already knock-tuned and everything. So I am putting some effort into that. But at 80 yards, I'm keeping them, roughly softball group, in my Reinhardt 18-1. And I'm at a paper plate at 100. This is with no wind, with 5 different mechanical broadheads. And that's as good as I can shoot anyway, or 5 different broadheads fixed in mechanicals. I was shooting a striker the other day from G5. That thing hit same spot. I shot one, I can't remember the name of it. Somebody gave me one the other day that I shot, and it was, I remember it. I'm not going to say the name because I'll end up getting hate mail. It hit the dirt 20 yards in front of the target. I hit 5 broadheads in one spot, and hits the 6th broadhead hits the dirt in front of the target. The broadhead, there's something wrong with it, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's crooked or whatever. In the sense that I probably should have put a little more effort into it, but it is vital that you spin your broadheads, especially with fixed blades, and you're a little more anal with your system. You can get away with a lot more with mechanicals. Anything else?
No, I think that's kind of it. I want to try the Valkyrie system too. I want to shoot a few of those, and I shot some with Ryan Lampers.
Yeah,
he had some that Brent mocked up for him, and Matt Davis as well. But I put them through my bow and shot, and they're super expensive. But I was really, really impressed with their flight, and that was just, when I was at Joel Turner's house like last week with Ryan Lampers. So, and Joel has them too, and they were pretty cool.
Yeah, I would be interested to see, and I'd have to take the time, if you took my carnivores the way they have them set up now, and you took an X Impact and set those up, and I shot dot for dot at 100 or a 120, see the difference. I can shoot well enough where I could get a real good, diagnostic, whatever you want to call it. I get a real good idea. Am I shooting better with the one system compared to the other in multiple different environments? It wouldn't take a whole lot. It wouldn't take much time to tell. So I haven't had time. I told the guy, I told Brent that I would, but I just haven't had time to screw around with it.
Same here. Just been awful busy. But yeah. All right. I think that'll do it.
That's all I got. Learn how to tune your bow. Try not to wound anything.
Go check out that index feature on the Gritty site if you're interested in finding a podcast that covers some of these topics.
I think Black Ovis carries the NAP kill zones and great
I know
diggers
that
as
they
well.
have them on our Gritty list. If you go to Gritty Bowmen and go to the Black Ovis link on our site, you'll find, I know the Gravedigger are on that list.
Yeah. And the Iron Will guy, he's out of Colorado, northern Colorado. You can check him out on his website. You can tell he's an engineer. The guy is very, very, very anal retentive when it comes to details. So it is a very good head, but you're going to pay for it, but it is nice. So
the Gravedigger, the Black Ovis, or the Gravedigger broadhead, it looks like it's $39 for a package, and they come with 3, right?
Yep.
So you're talking like $40 for a package of Gravediggers, or $40 for one when you're talking about an Iron Will.
What Brian's saying is that Iron Will better ship gold for $40. They are expensive. I think that it's going to be one of those deals where you know it's going to take that specific person that wants that much perfection to get it. Most guys that are shooting whitetails in Alabama, does, probably not going to be flinging a $40 broadhead at a doe. I'm only assuming, but guys going on a once-in-a-lifetime moose or goat hunt, that may be more that caters to, because I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be flinging Iron Wills at whitetails in Alabama, just for the simple fact, dude, I can't afford that shit. There's no way. But I'll use them for other animals for sure. I'm going to shoot that mountain goat with them if I get a chance to. I'm going to shoot them up at in BC. So
yeah, cool. All right, Aaron. Thanks, man.
no
Appreciate
problem.
it. Good
All
stuff
right.
here.
Stay gritty and stay away from communisky.